Let me give you an employment scenario. Castor Company is in rural Iowa. It has, and this is based on actual fact pattern I've seen in my job too. It has an engineer in a key position who keeps 50 manufacturing jobs going because that engineer supports these 50 manufacturing jobs in this line. But he wants to retire. And so Castor starts looking around, and they can't find any engineer who wants to move to rural Iowa. So they go to Iowa State, and they interview, and the best candidate is Judy Chen from Taiwan, and she's here on an F1 student visa. So Castor hires Judy to work after graduation on this thing called Optional Practical Training, or OPT. Most foreign students can work a year after graduation so that they can have a chance to try out their skills they learned, and they can get a work permit. It's a pretty easy thing to do. For some occupations, science, technology, engineering, math occupations, if the employer signs up for this thing called E-Verify, which is a way that you can check whether someone's authorized to work or not with the government. If the employer signs up for that, they can get an additional 17 months on top of that 12. So they could have Judy working for 29 months for them because she's an engineer, and if they sign up for E-Verify with not too much trouble. But then they decide, geez, she's really good. We really can't find anybody else. They keep looking around, can't find anybody else. So they decide they want to sponsor her for immigration. So she needs to go through a process with Department of Labor called PERM, P-E-R-M. Now, PERM requires, it's again, Department of Labor makes these rules. You have to have specific recruitment showing that no U.S. worker is available. And they tell you what kind. A couple of newspaper advertisements in certain newspapers, 3 other sources, post it with job service, on and on. These things you have to do. Even if the company's been recruiting elsewhere, they still have to go through these other steps. They have to offer a salary that meets the government prevailing wage. And that's determined by the government, what that salary will be based on the job description and the location of employment. You file this electronically with Department of Labor, and they eventually get around to approving it or not approving it, or maybe auditing, because you don't file papers with them now, you just file electronically, but they can come back and look at everything you did, all the resumes you may have received, or that kind of thing. Make sure you did it right. And I usually tell clients to expect about a year for that process for PERM. Okay, to go through that Department of Labor step, all the ads you have to do, and then Department of Labor has to get their job done too. Now, if PERM is approved, Castor must file another thing with Immigration Service this time, which is called a Petition for Immigrant Worker. It's an I-140 is the form number, and you file that with CIS, the people who give the benefits. And in that, they have to show they've got the ability to pay Judy the wage they're offering, that Judy's qualified for the job the way they advertised it with Department of Labor. And that takes maybe 4 to 8 months, usually, to get that done. Okay, now if the I-140 is approved, then Judy can file for her permanent residence or her green card, along with, if she has a spouse or if she has children under 21, they can all file together. But she can't do this until what they call her priority date is current. So that goes back to that chart that I showed you. And your priority date is the date that you filed that PERM with Department of Labor. So you remember those waiting times. So a typical engineer job doesn't require an advanced degree, so she'd be in that skilled category, that third category. And right now, just so we don't have to page back, I'll tell you that for Taiwan, the category for EB3 is back. Well, right now it's unavailable, but when it was available, it was March 1, 2003. If it was India, it would be November 1, 2005 for someone in that category. Now, all is not lost, however, because, Judy does have a bachelor's degree. She is a professional. And they can keep her here by filing for what's called an H-1B visa, or status, really, to show, and they have to show that, first of all, the job requires at least a bachelor's degree in a particular specialty occupation. So in other words, bank teller, you might want someone with a degree, but you don't really care what their degree is. But an engineer, you really have to have an engineering degree, okay? And they also have to show that Judy has an engineering degree or the equivalent, maybe a foreign degree, she could have that, or maybe, well, for engineering, you can't really have work experience, but, some jobs you could gain that same knowledge through work experience. And they have to show that, just like the PERM process, they have to show that they're paying the prevailing wage. Or also, if they're paying other engineers more, they have to offer her that more than the prevailing wage. They can't undercut what they're paying to other workers either. And, of course, there must be an H-1B visa available. Some years, those run out really April 1st. So if you happen to have somebody you want to sponsor after that and there's no H-1B available, too bad. You just can't do it. But this year, that's not a problem with the recession, but many years it is. So that's how they would typically keep Judy here while they were waiting for her number to come up. And that system, it's awkward, and it's cumbersome, and it's expensive, but it does work. For a lot of people, it does work, and that's what I sort of do all day. But, it does work. But we don't have anything like that if she was not in a job that required a bachelor's degree. That hole would be there where we want to hire her, we have a number to hire her, but we can't employ her because we have no way to do that.